never needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Jonah's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't.
Hello, Arizona. I'm Anthony Gonzalez, and I'm here with The Race, Politics in Arizona.
Hello, I'm Shuron Harvey, and I'm also here with The Race, Politics in Arizona, and we're joined by Legislative District Number 2 Chairman, Mr. Sergio. How you doing, Sergio?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, Sergio, so let's go through a little bit of questions that we have laid out for you today. So anyway, can you please give us a layout of LD2 and what that represents in Arizona?
Well, Legislative District 2 encompasses the majority of southern Arizona. It starts from Nogales in Santa Cruz County all the way up to South Tucson into Pima County. So our district encompasses 2 counties.
All right, what are the voters' demographics in LD2? Because as I understand, the Democrats have a 10% advantage in LD2.
They have more than a 10% advantage, actually. In Santa Cruz County, there's a 3-to-1 Republican to Democrat. We're outnumbered. And then in Pima County, we're outnumbered by, I'd say, it's 2 to every 1 Republican. So we're...
Okay, in 2012, we saw a candidate in LD2 lose only by, what, 5%? Please explain to us, how did this happen?
Well, you know, we had Chris Ackerley, who ran for House. He came really close. He actually lost by approximately 3,000 votes or so. The majority of his voting block came from Pima County. So we have a stronghold in Green Valley, Sarita, Tubac, and some parts of South Tucson that are leaning mostly Republican. Now, where we have a deficit is the 3-to-1 in Santa Cruz County, and that's where he lost by 3,000 votes.
Really? Okay. Okay, because, yeah, we were looking through the numbers, and we saw he was neck and neck with the, I think it was
Gabaldon.
Gabaldon, I'm sorry,
Yes, sir.
and D'Alessandro.
Yes, sir.
And that was in Pima County, which I would have assumed, considering the fact that South Tucson is mostly Hispanic, a guy with the name Ackerley would have no chance. But, of course, in Santa Cruz, we saw that huge different margin. But we did find some interesting information. He did get more votes than Jeff Flake, the U.S. Senator candidate in Santa Cruz County. So is there a disparity between how the voters in your district view House races and state Senate races versus the U.S. level?
You know, I think it's more on where the grassroots level is. That's why being involved and active as a PC is really important. Right now we have less PCs in Santa Cruz County than we do in Pima County. So we're able to effectively tackle that voting block that needs to be tackled in order for us to win races. Now, I recently came to be chairman a couple months ago, so this is new. But I do have a plan and an idea to expand our volunteer base, our precinct committeemen, so that we can effectively hit these races and win them. I mean, 3,000 people, we could have knocked that out in Santa Cruz County with 10 to 15 additional precinct committeemen.
Well, let's see. Our next question is, well, what happens when we look at this race and you go, okay, Santa Cruz County is heavily Hispanic, right? Pima County, Southern Arizona is heavily Hispanic. Why do the Republicans not go after that voting block with a Hispanic candidate?
That is, you know, the image that the Republican Party has to work with. I mean, it goes from the presidential election where you had 60% of the Hispanic bloc going towards President Obama. 60 to 70%. That's a very high demographic. Now, when we don't have enough representation or Hispanics coming up, volunteering to want to run, that's where we have the lapse. You know, it's broken. And so part of my effort as chairman is to go out there and recruit people, Hispanics, or people that are able to communicate within the Hispanic community and effectively tackle that demographic.
Does you being Hispanic help that out?
Oh, it does a lot.
Okay.
With me being Hispanic in a party that's viewed mostly as white and rich and old, you know, it's comes as quite a shock to other people and to other Hispanics. They say, hey, he's Republican. So I tell them, ask me why. So once they get into conversation with me, then they find that they share the same, you know, the same values, same social values, and are the same values that the Republican Party shares. And so it also helps me expand to reach out to more people that want to get involved, because now they say, hey, the Republican Party isn't about the old, rich, white people. It's more about minorities, and they're getting involved. Mr. Shuron Harvey himself is a precinct committeeman. Yes, and so we're actively attracting more people, more minorities, more youth, with me being at the head.
All right, great.
And Mr. Sergio, what activities or upcoming events do you have coming up in LD2, and how can we get involved with them?
Well, an upcoming event, we're trying to hold our next legislative meeting, which is January 18th in Nogales, to tackle that particular demographic. Now we have Santa Cruz County there, so our next legislative meetings are going to focus in Southern Arizona and in the Hispanic communities.
All right, great. And how you spoke about becoming a PC and becoming involved. How do people that, you know, our audience out here is going to be looking online, watching the television show, how can they become involved, even if they're not in your district, to become a PC?
They can seek out their county GOP. You can look for my district. You'd go to Pima County GOP or Santa Cruz County GOP. They each have their additional numbers. I didn't bring the phone numbers with me, and I should know them off the top of my head. But we can Google Pima County GOP, Santa Cruz County GOP, or whatever county you reside in, whatever city. I mean, it's statewide. So if you want to get involved, research your GOP. Say you want to get involved. Precinct committeeman is the strongest position in the whole political atmosphere. I mean, you get to shape everything from who gets to be in leadership, who your leaders are, who your elected officials are, and how the party is going to be shaped. That's why I stress that if you really want to shape your party and get involved, you become a precinct committeeman, because from there you vote for your leadership, and that leadership represents you and the people you're going to represent.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Sergio, and it's great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you for serving your country, too. We appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Have a great
Purple
day.
Heart.
Yes,
Great. Well, thank you.
All right, and next on the race, we will be having Mr. Adam Stevens from Legislation District 16. Please
All right.
come and join us, sir.
All right.
Good luck to you, sir.
There you go.
How you doing, Adam?
Doing very good. How are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely.
Okay, my
good?
first question. Republicans outnumber Democrats in LD 16 by roughly 20,000 votes. Is it fair to say that 2014 preliminary winner will get the election, will win the election?
That's a very safe assumption. I know the last election in 2012, the Republicans won with about 65% of the vote. So it's basically a primary race.
Okay, and in that context, we're looking at we just had Legislative 2 District Chairman up here, which is
Yes.
a completely different area than you are.
Completely, yes.
So for our viewers, could you tell them what part of Arizona you are representing or hoping to represent in the coming future?
Well, I appreciate the assumption that I'll win. No, the district, for those who don't know, the district is East Mesa, Northern Santan Valley, Apache Junction, and Gold Canyon. And it's actually an interesting district because Gold Canyon and Santan Valley are two largely populated areas that are also unincorporated. So there's actually, of your four major areas, two are cities and two are county islands.
Okay, so comparable, Mesa is the third biggest city in Arizona.
Yes.
Which is, I believe, 50,000 people less than Tucson. And
Yes.
And so you guys are neck and neck with us down here in Tucson when it comes to power. And But
Yes.
unfortunately, unlike up there, we have people who are not able to present bills and that sort of thing. So are there any things that you would want to bring to the table for the people of Arizona when you do, or if should you win election?
Well, since we're here in Tucson, I'll speak specifically of something that I'd like to do that actually I believe would have a positive effect on southern Arizona.
All right.
And that is that I think if we can come up with an intelligent, and I emphasize intelligent, border control plan where we work with local businesses, work with law enforcement, work with local communities, churches, civic organizations, and come up with a plan where we have the ability to understand what's going on the border, because the biggest concern when I've met with people is not just the guy trying to come into the country to find a job, but the real concerns they have is the criminal element, is the potential for a much larger threat, God forbid, terrorist organization, and we know that is going on the border as well. And I believe if we can actually address those concerns, we can then address the bigger concerns of public safety, which if we create a safe community, it enables businesses to want to come to areas like southern Arizona. That would actually, I believe, be something that we can do that would help the whole state, but specifically since we're here in Tucson.
And you're what the Republicans would call a young gun. So what is your
Yes.
plan to win over those votes that might think you're too young?
Personal experience. I believe at least the Republican Party is a party that does value personal, private experience. I've been involved in business for a long time. I've also been involved at the political level in campaigns as well. But I think that the biggest thing the Republican Party is looking for are people that can advance their principles, advance their policies. And I believe, like you were mentioning earlier, with how do we attract the Hispanic vote, I believe that success breeds success. And I believe that if young people can succeed in the Republican Party, I believe you will start to see more young voters lean that way. I believe same thing with the Hispanic community, same with the African American community. If people start to see there's a way for us to succeed in that party, we'll be more active. And I believe that what my message has been, that from my experience, and even young, and I would say, look, you want to talk about youth, quick example, Alexander Hamilton, by the time he was 30 years old, had already been Washington's aide-de-camp, had already written the Constitution, had been a member of the House of Representatives, was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention and to our Continental Congress. So I would say, compared to Alexander Hamilton, I'm a bit of a late bloomer. But youth in American politics is a great thing.
All right, well, let's go to another question then. Yeah. You are running in a district that is primarily Republican, and there is a pretty crowded field for what we call for those of our viewers that don't know, there's one Senate seat in each district and 2 House seats in each district.
Yes.
You're running for one of those House seats.
Yes, that's correct.
So you're one of the 3 selections that they would have to choose from a whole bunch of candidates.
4.
Well, 4 candidates
Yes.
are running in. That's the other second part of this. So I was trying to explain the whole demographic, but there's 4 candidates running currently. There's Kelly Townsend, who is the current elected official.
Yes.
Doug Coleman,
Yes.
who is a really, really great person to pick on, who is a representative as well. And we have ex-representative John Fillmore, who has thrown his hat in the race as well, just in your race.
Yes.
So if you could give us a lowdown as to why the people should choose you over the people that are currently there and the representative who used to be there is now running again.
Well, in that district, the 3 major issues that concern the community is jobs in the economy, education, both K through 12 and higher education, ASU, U of A, which I know we'll get to a little later, especially tonight. And we will, and they also look at the border. And those are the 3 major issues in the district. And I've been telling everybody, if you want to solve those problems, you've got to elect somebody who has experience in those areas. I've had the opportunity to be in business, both in manufacturing, in retail sales, as well as in real estate, both at a commercial level and residential level. I'm also the product of school choice, having been both to public schools and private schools. And I've also gone through the university system in the state of Arizona, which gives me, I believe, a unique opportunity to look at how can we fix higher education along with K through 12 education. And I've also had the opportunity to live abroad in Latin America for several years, where we had a family business. So I understand both the issues of why people are coming to this country from Latin America. I understand the abject poverty that exists there. I understand what businesses have to go through when you're dealing with cross-border trade. So I believe that my experience, on those major issues gives me the ability to go in with a lot less on-the-job training, understanding what the interested parties involved have to deal with.
So, at the state level, how are you going to affect the border? Because from what I understand, that's federal jurisdiction, right? Is that not correct?
The immigration is.
Okay.
The actual immigration itself, I do believe, however, as a conservative, I do believe very much in the fact that we have in the ideas of state sovereignty. And I do believe that the state legislature has an obligation to protect the citizens of the state and to protect the state itself. And we do know, as I said, we do know that you have drug cartels coming through, criminal element coming through, and the real threat of a terrorist entry through our southern border. And I don't believe that the security of the state of Arizona is negotiable. And so from a security standpoint, I would look at working with law enforcement, working with our congressman in Washington, D.C., and working with federal agencies and say, look, the security and the well-being of the people of Arizona is non-negotiable. So what is it that we can do? My attitude would be on state land, empowering our law enforcement in state areas, working with private ranchers who want the problem solved, and say, what can we do, and learn what's going on, and then take corrective action immediately to cut off those drug cartels, to cut off the trade routes. We don't have to accept, just because the federal government doesn't want to solve the problem, doesn't mean we have to accept that.
Okay, so you're saying that local law enforcement would have the ability to also enforce those, not enforce federal law, but enforce the right of the state to just take care of itself.
Yeah, I would say enforce the laws that are on the books. And if the federal government isn't going to deal with it, that doesn't mean that I have to, and I should not have to go back to my voters and say, well, the president told me no, so
and
I
that's
hope
why
nothing has wrong.
Well, that's why we had SB 1070 go through, and that was a whole fiasco. And I believe the major parts of it were held up by the Supreme Court, where Arizona was granted, right, that ability to enforce its own laws.
Absolutely.
And so, I don't know, Shuron, you got any more on that one?
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, let's go away from there because we are in Tucson, and So, in going with that, you're saying working with federal congressmen and that sort of issues. So, you're in a kind of a Phoenix, which is we've got Raul Grijalva down here, and Ron Barber, and Barber's been doing some very friendly voting with the Republicans lately, as of late.
Probably more strategic than anything.
Well. But I mean, we really
voted the way he voted. Yes,
he voted the way he voted, and we're looking at it this way: who are the representatives in the areas where you're at? Since you're in a completely different area than us.
Yeah, we have in LD 16 we have two congressmen. We have Congressman Paul Gosar, whose district makes up Santan Valley, Apache Junction, Prescott, Wickenburg, Lake Havasu, Northern Yuma, and the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's a
Yuma, Grand Canyon. East Phoenix.
One of the most active, very, very good congressmen, and he's my congressman, and I'm very glad for that. The other congressman who's in the district is Congressman Matt Salmon.
Okay.
So LD 16 has congressmen that basically represent the general conservative attitude of the legislative district itself.
Okay.
So
and that'll flow right. You want to go in with that?
What previous politic experience do you have?
Okay, politically, I've been involved in politics for a long time, actually. Way back even when I was living in Latin America, and we were part of, my family was asked to be part of a host committee for July 4th.
In Latin America?
In Latin America, the U.S. Ambassador's House, the American community were getting together. And so my first real delve into being really putting not just the general patriotism that I had being an American citizen, but living abroad and seeing Americans come together, for the flag, for our country, for what we believed in, But since then, I've been involved in local political races, from state house races in Gilbert and the East Valley. I've been involved in congressional campaigns, as I mentioned, with people like Congressman Matt Salmon, people like Congressman Gosar. So it's been a lot of different experiences from there. Also, not just in congressional campaigns and legislative campaigns, but also what I'll call the inside politics, like what your previous guest was talking about, more at the precinct committeeman level, and organizing those kinds of events, putting together candidate forums, putting together picnics, fundraisers, and that kind of stuff. So I've been involved in the community politically through that, and also non-political, having been in. And I'll
Well, what are some of those non-political things that you've?
I've been very active with the American Legion,
Okay.
Sons of the American Legion. I believe that we have a great debt to our veterans, and I believe that as non-veterans, like myself, that we should do what we can to help those. And so I've been very happy in helping set up fundraisers to help families of veterans, also putting together American Legion Baseball, which is great for youth sports. I believe it's better to go out and play baseball as opposed to spending $60 on a baseball video game. So, I think that as a community, those are the kinds of things. I believe in people power, not government power.
Going back to the previous question, tell us what was your roles on those campaigns? What did you do, like event coordinating or managing? What did you specifically do?
Well, each campaign is slightly different, and depending on when exactly you come into a campaign, it depends. So, as an example, for a lot of the more congressional campaigns, I would help more out in an area. So taking Congressman Gosar as an example, they had no need for me to go all the way out to Lake Havasu. But they knew that where I lived was in their district. And so, from helping coordinate with volunteers where to put signs out, putting together, dinner meet and greets for the congressman, setting up meetings with business leaders in the community. Since Santan Valley was a new part of his district because they redistricted the congressional lines, so all of a sudden, a whole new community that he was not connected to was now in his district. So introducing him to chambers of commerce leaders, stuff like that. More than anything, it was sort of as a business liaison ambassador, so to say, for the campaign in the area. It was something I was very proud of to help him with, since he's done such a phenomenal job for our state, in my opinion. I know Raul Grijalva probably would disagree with me, but
I think so.
I don't think we really asked his opinion. So
No, I would never do that. But
No, never.
well, let's talk a little about this since you're from Phoenix today.
Yes.
We are filming this. Of course, will air later. But today is the Territorial Cup game, and I've got my little lapel here, and we have the ASU grads down here.
Yes, you do.
So, ironically, just talking about Congressman Gosar, me, you, and Paul Gosar, Congressman Gosar's district director, all have a bet
yes,
going on right now, and
which you will pay up. I assume you're a man of your word.
Not so fast.
we will see.
Not so fast, yeah.
But I look forward to actually winning that one. But
Yes. Bringing the
we
trophy home.
we
We're
beat
bringing
one
home.
devil yesterday with Duke.
Another
We got
goes
one
on.
left with you. So
I'll just say as a completely off, and normally when you're a candidate, you don't have that many opportunities to sort of take the facade away. But I would say that, I've always been, as long as I've been in Arizona, I've been a Sun Devil fan. And I can't honestly remember the last time ASU has had this much going for it.
Yeah.
So I will admittedly, while I'm very much looking forward to the Wildcats having a secure lock on last place in the division, I will say that I am very cautiously optimistic. I don't believe, quite honest, I don't believe you guys will be our biggest problem. I'm more afraid of whoever it is we've got to play out of the Pac-12 North.
Stanford.
Stanford still, even
Probably.
though they lost to USC.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
how
that
it
makes us your problem, though. When you underestimating us. That's when the
Good thing you're
trouble
running
comes. Yeah.
in Phoenix.
I'll just say this one thing. I'll say one thing, and that is that if I was the University of Arizona, I would have obviously wanted to beat Oregon. I would not have wanted to beat Oregon the way I did, because the one thing I've learned, at least with Coach Graham at ASU, is that now at least you gave the Sun Devils a week and change to see what you guys can do when you're at your best. And I'll just say I don't see lightning striking twice for U of A. So
Here we go.
that's
All right.
and right after this, folks, I will be getting back in my car, driving towards Tempe, so I can actually get out of here in one piece.
It just ended. Yeah.
All right.